Hi everyone, I'm Yili Zhao and I'm here for the Game 101 and the redesign of Outrun. And I've renamed it to Territory, and I don't know whether it will change or not because I've changed it to Room to Territory. Um, and so here we go. And oh, yes, please bear with me of my English because I'm not a native speaker and I'm very nervous. Okay. So first of all, the theme. I tried to make a theme to make the game more make sense, and I made a theme up so it was like a usual territory game. And second, I spread up my rules to the world rule and the gameplay rule. So first of all, the world rules. Um, the tile. Tile is stands for your defense system of your land. That means if you don't have a tile on your land and your land look like this, if you don't have them, that means that your opponent can simply walk through your land without any stopping or something like that, and you lose easily. So you don't want that to happen, so you need tiles to defend yourself. And each tile has soldiers who can help you defend your land. Maybe it's hard to see because I made it rather small, and it's those little stars here, the yellow stars, that stands for the defense soldiers. And different tiles have different numbers of soldiers. For example, this tile have 4, and some tile have 3, and some have 2. And you should be aware that the tiles have rivers and roads on it, like this. This is a road, and this is the river. And you cannot join two tiles together if they're cut through. It's a bit like this game, and you have to join them all together, and you don't want them to cut through. For example, if you have this kind of tile, you want your tile to look like this, and you definitely don't want them to look like this or like this. And back to the slides. And if you draw a pile that cannot fit in your land, when I mean fit in your land, that means if your land is empty, you can put whatever tile you want. That's totally fine. But if your land have like only one space left, and that means you have to find a tile that fits perfectly into that land. And if that tile you draw is not going to fit, then sorry, you have to put the tile back and you're not going to keep that tile. And second, we have weapons. And the weapons is what you're going to do attacks and make damage on the soldiers standing on the tile. And first of all, you cannot attack someone without a weapon. And that means you have to get your weapon from the weapon deck. And secondly, the weapons have a distance here. And when the distance says 0, that means you have to stand on the tile to make that damage. And the damage is for 2 points. That means you can do 2 damages, which means that you kill off 2 of the soldiers here. And here is a special power for the weapon you are holding. The special power here says passive and some are active. And this passive power says that you can damage other players' weapon and will take effect when you attack someone. Could only be used once. That means, for example, you have owned this weapon and you want to attack A. That means A's weapon will be automatically lost. And if he or she have not drawn a weapon yet, this special power will still happen, and it cannot be used after they have their weapons. So you need to judge carefully whether you want to take the attack before or after they have their weapons. And some weapons have special powers, but some don't. For example, this special power have a damage of 4. No, this special power have an active special power, and it means jump the dice rolling and do 4-point damage. Lose the weapon after using special power. That means, for example, he has to do dice. He has to roll the dice before he do the damage, and if he or she rolls 3 or 5, then he or she can do 4 damages. But if that is not 3 or 5, you do 0 damage. And this active, that means you have to say, oh, I want to, or I don't. And that means you can do solid 4-point damage, but you lose the whole weapon for sure. And here is a weapon that has not any special powers, so it is a normal weapon that does not have a special power. And some have like the damage you're doing per time means that if you're attacking on someone, this damage point is the point you can only do inside one tile. That means if you have a distance of, let's say, 5, that's a long distance, but you can only do the damage inside one tile. That means if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, you can do a damage here, but you can only do that damage inside this tile. You cannot do 1 here and 1 here. That's not good. That's not going to work. Okay, so here are the soldier pieces. The soldier pieces is not the defend soldiers on the tile. The soldier pieces is what you are holding, and you can only have 1 soldier piece on each of your opponent's land. That means you can only move this thing, and this is the only thing you can move on your opponent's land. And you can choose whether to activate them or not. For example, if you're doing duel, that is the only thing you can hold, and that is the only thing you can move. But if you're doing a 4-player game, that means you can do damage. You can move them, or you can choose to leave it alone, because you might want to only attack on one of the players. But if you want to do like defeat all 3 of them at once, it's still fine, but you may not get enough turns. And when you move your soldier piece on your opponent's land, the tile your soldier is standing on and your weapon range should be what you can attack on. For example, I have a 2 range weapons. That means here is what the tiles I can attack on. You cannot go through the tile here and land on this tile. That's not going to work either. And finally, you cannot move on if the tile is not clear. That means if the tile here, the tile you're standing on, still have 1 soldier, and this next tile is not clear either, you have to clear up the tile you're standing on, then you can move on. And the dice rolling part, we have 2 kind of dice, 2 kind of random number. First of all, you can flip a coin, which is a D2 dice, and to see whether you can pick up 1 or 2 tile while building up your land. So if you're building up, that means you need to first flip a coin. When the coin lands on the right side, and then you get to pick up 2 tiles, and you can get the 2 tiles into your land as long as they fit. And if it's not right, then you can only pick up 1 tile. And you have to roll the D6 dice for the weapon, which I mentioned earlier. The weapon, like this one, it needs the dice, and it needs to roll 3 to 5 to activate it. And when you're walking, like when you want to move your soldiers upward, you need the opponent to give you a number, and they maybe give you a 6, and then you roll it. If the dice rolling you roll the dice, it's 6 and it matches with the number the opponent gives you, then sorry, you have to stay where you are and you cannot move. But if the number does not match, then you can go on. And the number you roll does not mean you can walk that much. You can only take 1 or 2 steps at one time. And all of this can only be done like in one turn. Like you can draw a weapon or walk up or build up or to do damage. You can only do it in one turn. Like, okay, the gameplay rules. First of all, the startup. You can have 2 to 4 players because I don't think more player would work because that game will be too long. And in the first 5 rounds, because your land is too weak if you don't build up, so in the first 5 rounds, you need to build your lands up. So you flip a coin and you pick up 1 or 2 tiles at a time and you build up your land. And you're not allowed to draw weapons. So the drawing weapon part is going to be 5 rounds after. And the attack part is going to be 5 rounds after. And after 5 rounds, you can decide whether to build up or to draw a new weapon in the weapon deck, or to move up your soldiers, or to attack. Those are the things that you can only do one at a time. And first of all, you can decide what movements you want to take, like build. So you flip a coin, and if it's a head, draw 2 tiles. If it's not, draw 1. And you can get a new weapon. And if you draw a new weapon, then you must use new weapon. And the old weapon goes into your weapon deck. And when the weapon you're holding breaks or something like that, the old weapon gets up again. So you have to use the new weapon each time you get it. And when someone destroys your weapon, they destroy only the weapon you're holding. That means the new weapon. And if you're walking, like you want to walk up, then you let your opponent give you a number. You roll the dice, and if the number equals, you should move. If not, take 1 or 2 steps. But make sure that the tile is clear so you can move up. And the winning or losing situation is that when your soldier reaches the blue tile on their territory, which is here, and your soldier should start up here. And when I mean reaches, it's not like you can do damage on that tile. It's not in your reach of damaging. It's that your soldier is standing on that tile and you win. And that player loses. So when it's a 4-player game, you need to get all 3 of them standing, not your soldier, but all of them have a soldier that is not their own standing on the blue tile. And yours blue tile have not been taken over yet, then you win and they loses. So that's all for the slides. Hi everyone, I'm here to show you the board and the tiles, and I'm not done with the weapon card yet, and I don't have a dice, so it's a simple example. So first of all, your soldier starts here. It's a Hershey's. And then for the first 5 rounds, for your opponent, this is me, and this is my opponent's board. For them, they will build up their tiles. Then, for example, they should flip the coin. Oh, it's a head, so I pick 2. You're not picking them, you're taking them facing down. So this is the 2 I'm having, and I'm putting them here because I don't want them to approach. And for the five field rounds, it's a back. Okay. Still a back. Ahead. Oh, forgot. You see, I cannot put it here because it's not matching. Okay. So, this is for first 5 rounds. And for example, for the 6th round, I did not pick anything. I did not build up. I draw a weapon card here. And you see it's a distance of 2. And it does 4 damages. And it has a passive special power. It's called not to be destroyed by other weapons and could only be used once. So for example, if another weapon has a special power to destroy others' weapons, then my weapon will not be destroyed, but it can only be used once. So if another person destroys my weapon, they have a special power on destroying and choose to attack on me, then my weapon will still get destroyed because it's been destroyed twice. Okay, so the second time I'm going forward, I do not have a dice. Let's say the opponent gave me a 3 and I rolled a 3. So I'm not moving here. I'm still standing right here. And the next turn, the opponent gave me a 6. Still, I want to go on, so I rolled, and I rolled a 3. It's not a 6. So what I'm gonna do is I choose to move on 1 or 2. I want to move on 2. So I choose this tile, and I stand on here. This tile has 1, 2, 3, 4. It had 4 opponent. No, it had 4 defendant soldiers. And my weapon can do 4 points of damages, so I can choose whether to attack this way 2 blocks, or this way, or this way, or this way 2 blocks, but I'm going to defeat this block I'm standing on. So I'm defeating this block. It has 4 points, and I do 4-point damages, so this tile will go back to the tile pile here. So I think that's all. So and your goal is to go on to this blue space, and while you're not letting others to go into your blue space. And that's all.